Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another awesome Paleo Revived figure, and in a way we have two this time because we've got ourselves the Spinoceratops. If you are unfamiliar with what this is, obviously it's a hybrid dinosaur. This made its debut in Camp Cretaceous and has only appeared in Camp Cretaceous to my knowledge, and it's obviously a mixture of a Spinoceratops and a Spinosaurus, I guess, which they've gone ahead and created this interesting dinosaur. There are two different versions in the show. I tried to replicate both of them as best I could when it comes to their colorations. I never painted this, Spinoceratops before, and although I enjoyed them in the show, I never paid too much attention to them, so hopefully my paint jobs have turned out okay. I don't know how perfectly accurate they are, but I was pretty happy with them. But again, the figures here from the Paleo Revived line look very cool as they always do, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at them and we'll check them out from there. Now when it comes to our little Spinoceratops in the Paleo Revived line, there's not a whole lot to go over with these guys, honestly, because they're just kind of short, stubby, kind of goofy looking younger dinosaurs. They're obviously very young in the show, nowhere near an adult, but there is definitely a unique appearance to them, that's for sure. And, something that you see from time to time in the Paleo Revived line, we don't actually have any articulation for these guys. A lot of the figures do have articulation, but the Spinoceratops does not. However, you can see we do have a beak sculpted out, of course, for our dinosaur, and you can kind of see the light there on the other side, which means that the mouth is just ever so slightly opened, not exactly all the way closed. You've got the horn right here, that nasal horn, which is very nicely sculpted, and you can even see like some nice fine detail to it. We've obviously got the eyes sculpted out as well. As you lead up around the frill, you have all the spikes and stuff that you would expect to see for the dinosaur, and I love how nicely he sculpted them out. Again, kind of like shooting off in different positions, similar to the way you do actually see them in the show. We also have the opening to the frill right here, like you see in the show, which is also something that, again, you would see on the Spinoceratops in Jurassic World, so adding in similarities between the Spinoceratops and this hybrid. But you can see, again, that looks really good. The skin texture as well, I think, looks really quite nice for the face area of the dinosaur. Also up into the frill, you can see we have some very nice looking skin texture up there. And when it comes to the overall likeness of the Spinoceratops, I feel like they definitely captured it very nicely overall. You also have a little bit of pudginess to the throat here on the underside of the dinosaur. As you move back into the body, we can very clearly see that this one is in pretty much a neutral position. There's not really any difference on this side compared to the other side when it comes to the positioning of the legs. We have those very kind of short and stubby legs, just like we see on the Spinoceratops in the show. You can see as you lead down, the feet look pretty nice. You've got really tiny nails, really tiny toes for the dinosaur. And then, of course, you also have the sail area up here in the back of our Spinoceratops, exactly as you see it in the film. As you move through the body, you can see again the skin texture looks pretty much the same through the course of the figure. Doesn't seem to have too much when it comes to like difference in the skin texture as you move through the dinosaur in the show. Again, they've captured that same thing here on this version, and hopefully my paintwork has done at least a fairly decent job of kind of replicating the Spinoceratops. As I said, I've never painted this dinosaur before, and I'm not super familiar with the color scheme of it, so hopefully my version here has kind of brought the dinosaur to life and given this sculpt justice. I do know, though, there is a bit of a lighter version in the show, and you have this version here, which does replicate the lighter variant of the two. Again, to the best of my abilities, I'm pretty happy with this one as well. There are just very subtle differences when it comes to this figure and the other one. You might look at the two and think, well, there's actually only one really subtle difference that I've picked up on so far. But you might look at them and think, well, that's the same figure and I've just painted it twice. In fact, it is not. And they're very small difference you might be able to notice just looking at the two right here is the positioning of the head. This version here on the left has its head up higher. This version on the right has its head kind of tilted down slightly. So they are not the exact same figure. There is definitely that slight difference between them, which I think was a great decision on the part of Dino Mike Mac. You know, not just kind of reusing the exact same figure and just giving us the same figure twice. He has gone ahead and given us at least a little bit of difference for the Spinoceratops, which, like I said, was a really nice touch. But outside of that, as you move through the body, I feel like the rest of the body looks pretty much the same as the other one did. No real big differences or anything between this one and the other one when it comes to the sculpt. Just obviously a different positioning for the head, and my paint apps are quite a bit different when it comes to this one compared to the other one. When you bring them both up and look at them, you can see, even though they look very similar, there is definitely, you know, some difference between the two when it comes to the coloration. So again, I tried to replicate it as best I could from the show, but they are definitely gorgeous figures, really, really nicely replicating and recreating the Spinoceratops from the film, something Mattel for some reason never did. I don't know why. I would have expected like a Danger Pack or an Attack Pack type version of these guys to have come out at some point. They never did, so now we have Dino Mike Mac here again picking up the slack of Mattel and giving us these very cool versions of the Spinoceratops. Now, as far as the size goes for these guys, they are definitely quite small. Size-wise, I feel like we really only need to take a look at one because there's not going to be too much of a difference between the two, if at all. But for a length, you are looking at around 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters. The highest point would be that sail on the back, about 2.25 inches or just a hair under 6 centimeters. And I would think that this one would probably be pretty much the same. Maybe slightly longer, like ever so slightly, just because the head is kind of pushed out more, whereas this one has the head kind of dropping down a little bit more. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Paleo Revived Spinoceratops, and you can see these guys are pretty small, definitely smaller than like your average Attack Pack size range. You can see that they're next to the Colovosaurus, but also just generally fairly small figures, although, you know, when it comes to the Paleo Revived line, they're definitely not the smallest we've seen in that line so far. We've also got a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus stepping in here for another comparison next to our Spinoceratops figures. And just to kind of give you one more idea of a size, we have the Nanuqsaurus here as well from the Paleo Revived line, just to give you an idea of how these Spinoceratops size up next to that figure as well. So these brand new Dino Mike Mac Paleo Revived Spinoceratops figures are really fun. You know, I'm actually pretty happy to finally have a version of these dinosaurs in my collection. The only version I know that's out currently would be the plush version, and I don't really collect the plush figures or anything like that, so to have one, you know, I'd rather have a more lifelike looking version. And this is definitely the best out there, that's for sure, that I've seen. And he's really nicely, again, captured the likeness of the Spinoceratops. As far as I'm aware, everything looks just like it did in the film, and or I should say show. And again, the sculpting and detailing looks quite nice as you move through the course of the body. The skin texture looks pretty nice. And again, the likeness, in my opinion, like I said, is pretty darn spot on overall from what I can recall from Camp Cretaceous. And of course, after looking at the images that I had to reference for the paint apps, you know, he definitely did a very good job of replicating them. And of course, giving them that kind of short and stocky sort of feel that they have in the show. But it is very nice to be able to at least have a Spinoceratops from somewhere to add to our collections because, like I said, Mattel failed to create one for us, so we now have the Dino Mike Mac version. As I mentioned earlier, though, these figures do not sport any articulation. Some of the figures in the Paleo Revived line do sport articulation. We've had a pretty healthy dose of both so far, as we've had, you know, articulated versions with the Ornithomimus and the Nanuqsaurus, but we've also had non-articulated figures like the Compsognathus and Microceratus, and now, of course, more when it comes to the non-articulated figures with our Spinoceratops, but who knows, the next review might have some more articulated figures. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But as I said, these are very nice figures, definitely worth picking up. And with, the Dino Mike Mac Paleo Revived line, one of, in my opinion, the most appealing aspects of these figures is the fact that they are fairly cheap overall. They usually fetch at least a fairly cheap price tag for what these figures are. And for the Spinoceratops, you can get a 2-pack for $10. So both of these figures for $10. Like, that is an unbelievable deal. So you can really see that Dino Mike Mac is doing the community a great service with these releases, and again offering them up for such great prices. So if you are interested, make sure you check the links that I will include in the description to where you can head on over and pick these up for yourself. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.